Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Robert, Ziggy Ziegler. Ziggy, wait, where are you right now? Confirmed, everybody?
I am in Alexandria, Virginia.
Alexandria, Virginia is where Robert Ziggy Ziegler is right now. And apparently the Wi-Fi is being worked on at his location at the moment. That is also correct.
Yes, it's Xfinity took Wi-Fi out for the whole block. So we are on cellular data, living on a prayer.
So we'll see. Ziggy potentially could be in and out of this episode. We'll do the best that we can. Going to go through the NFC North teams today, the free agency acquisitions, who's the most improved, biggest threat to the Lions, and then we're going to have to hit on this Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings rumor that's been swirling around. Everyone knows how Ziggy and I feel about it, but we'll dive a little bit deeper into that towards the end of the episode. If you've been enjoying the content, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can join our March Madness bracket. That is officially out right now. It's in the description, the link to the challenge. And if you're a member, remember, you have to be a member to play in this. This is one of the benefits of becoming a member to the channel. That was sent out, the password, on the community page. So if you go to our channel homepage, see posts, you can see the password, the link, everything to the ESPN bracket challenge, or you can click on the link in the description of this video to become a member. Of course, channel homepage, join. And if you can't watch this on YouTube, you can always listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So Ziggy, let's get right into it here, because we don't know when your Wi-Fi is going to crap out on us here. The NFC North had a lot of movement this free agency, or at least most of the teams had some big moves. Let's talk about the most improved to you between the Vikings, Lions, Bears, and Packers, who entered free agency being like, okay, I'm feeling good about this team, or maybe I'm not feeling good. And then you left and went, wow, all right, I have to reevaluate my thoughts on them.
I think that even when you consider the additions and the losses, the team I'm eyeing as the most improved is the Minnesota Vikings.
Hell yeah.
You go into this offseason and you think, all right, Sam Darnold's probably leaving. I'm not just saying this Kevin the Vikings home. If anything, I feel pulled towards other teams. But you say, look, this team's all right. But what do they need? They need huge improvements on the interior of the lines. And if you can do that, this will be a good team. So what do the Vikings go out and do? They add Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze, trying to bring some of that Colts offensive line to Minnesota. They keep Aaron Jones. They had Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen on the defensive line. They keep Byron Murphy. So all the players we were worried about leaving, I know some guys, like losing Cam Bynum sucks, but we will get over it. The guys that we couldn't afford to lose, we kept. And the big weaknesses of the team, they signed players. Now, do I necessarily like all of those deals? No, I think the Jonathan Allen deal is hilarious. I hate how much guards are getting paid. The Aaron Jones deal it's one of the 5 most ridiculous deals this offseason. But they added a lot of talent. They're getting better, and if we're looking at it for next year. Yeah, it's should he be the 6th highest paid running back in the entire NFL at over the age of 30? We're going to have to reduce the snap count this year. You tell me. But I think the Vikings added a lot of talent at positions of weakness. I think the one free agent we could not afford to lose, Byron Murphy, we kept and at an affordable price. I like what they did this offseason, even if I don't always love the financials of it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you here. It's funny because right when we were recording our last show, during the Bears segment, when we were talking about Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson and Drew Dahlman, I went on, I don't want to call it a rant, but maybe a mini rant about how the Vikings just never address the interior of the offensive line. That every single offseason it's an issue, and every single offseason we basically do nothing so that we come into the season, and by week 5 or week 6, every Vikings fan's just sitting back going, wow, that's a really bad spot. We should have addressed that last offseason. And you just see Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins, whoever, getting crushed with a free rusher right up the middle, and Garrett Bradbury or who am I thinking of? Ezra Cleveland, whoever it might be. And I'm not trying to throw any shade at anybody, but just watching their guy run past them. And Garrett Bradbury had his moments, but that was a spot that needed to be improved. So waking up on Tuesday morning and seeing, yes, that they went out and got both of the Colts offensive linemen, that then they followed that up and we had a glaring defensive tackle issue. The 2 guys you said, Hargrave and Allen, come in. You're looking at this Viking team now, and as you go up and down the depth chart, I was doing this, I tweeted it out. It was 1:10 in the morning last night, Ziggy, and I'm just staring at the Vikings depth chart. I'm going, holy crap, this is a really good football team right here. Like this, there's really not many weaknesses on this football team right now. where you could you have monsters too. Maybe you could say that I think that the secondary is still a little bit of a question mark. We'll see if Harrison Smith comes back. They lost Cam Bynum. But up and down the roster now, I mean, this is one of the best teams that the Vikings have had in a long time. Let's say outside the quarterback position, because that's all what it comes down to, right? Can JJ McCarthy play? And if JJ McCarthy can play, I mean, the Vikings are going to be great next season. Like, there's no reason that this unit can't go out up against anybody on paper. So I agree with you. I think the Vikings were the big winners of the NFC North, especially after a quiet start. You improve in the trenches the way that they did. That's what won Philadelphia the Super Bowl, was the play in now Saquon Barkley was unbelievable. AJ Brown's unbelievable, but the play in the trenches is where they dominated. And that's the model that the Vikings are trying to follow. I was so happy. And do you think I'm getting a little too excited here, or is this justified?
I mean, what you're doing is you're excusing the single most important position in football and saying, well, so long as our guy is coming off significant knee surgery, that's great there, we'll be a good team. But look, it's the thing I like about this offseason, I think, and why I'm interested in seeing where this goes, is it isn't going all in on this year. Most of these guys like Hargrave, Allen, Ryan Kelly, Freeze, even though they're older, they'll be around for a couple of years. So the thing I like about this offseason, I think this puts the Vikings in a good spot. This year, things will be great around JJ McCarthy. But really, in terms of being super competitive, I'm targeting 2026 as the year where this team's going to go nuts.
Well, this is also the advantage of having a young quarterback like JJ, the rookie contract. Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks opened up all that cap space for you to make these moves. I like Sam. I hope he does really well in Seattle. But is the drop off from Sam to JJ, if there is even a drop off, is that worth getting these guys here? Like, is giving up Sam Darnold worth these guys? And I think it is. It's kind of what they did last year with Kirk, right? They let Kirk go and they brought in, you texted us the other day in our group chat that this is one of the best free agent classes in recent memory that you saw, when the Vikings added Grenard and Van Ginkel, and Stephon Gilmore came in at cornerback for us. Who else? Aaron Jones. Like, the Vikings made so many promising moves last year because they freed up money. And if you don't have a superstar at quarterback, this is the way to do it. Build up your team. And I was really happy. I think Kwesi did a great job this year. And again, it all goes back to that Kyle Hamilton pick. Any discontent I have with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, but he's been fantastic now, building just an awesome roster. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do next season, which is the classic Viking trap, right? Have a phenomenal offseason. They'll probably be really good next year. And then JJ will wind up just having a stinker in like week 17 or 18, or we'll have some playoff catastrophe. Like Will Reichard will forget how to kick in US Bank Stadium come the divisional round. There'll be something that brings us all crashing back down to earth. But so far, the past two off seasons in Minnesota have completely rebuilt the team. A lot of the starters on this team you can look at from the past two off seasons, including the draft. And the flexibility that the Vikings have now on draft night, we talked about this with the Packers, they really can go best position available. I don't think they have much pressure to take any specific position, where a week ago you would have said, yeah, D tackle, interior O-line, cornerback. Like, we need to prioritize that. Now, if there's a beast, just go get them. And that's a very freeing feeling to have, I'm sure, in the front office. Any closing thoughts on the Vikings before we move on here?
I think it's good that you mentioned the Vikings have some availability in the draft, especially because, thank you, Atlanta Falcons, the Vikings have the top compensatory take in the entire draft, right at the end of the third round. So that's going to be very, very sweet for us, I think. I'm looking forward to seeing what Kwesi does. Things have improved every offseason. And again, while I'm not totally happy with all of the financials, I think the Vikings made a big improvement this offseason. But, as we're thinking about this, I think there's really two kinds of teams in the NFC North. There's the teams I feel like improved a lot with their additions, namely the Vikings and the Bears. And there's the teams that didn't add a bunch of big splashes, namely the Lions and the Packers. And the Lions, I think it was sort of easier to justify because, look, your additions are getting half your team off of IR. You're getting one of the best edge rushers in football back. You're getting some defensive depth back. You swapped out a couple players here or there. But the Packers, to me, didn't seem to improve very much at all. And I wonder how that's going to play out, as I think you've got a pretty clear hierarchy of Vikings, Bears, Lions, and then Packers in terms of improvement this offseason.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Green Bay, their fan base was dying for a receiver or an edge rusher coming into this free agency. And I think that they are happy that they didn't overpay on DK Metcalf. They didn't overpay for Devontae Adams. It was their opinion. I think Devontae was a solid deal for the Rams. But when you look at the Packers, a lot of their fans are saying, yeah, we didn't add anything and that sucks. But at the same time, we didn't want to spend too much. Most of them just seem resigned to the fact that the Packers aren't willing to go out and make splashy moves, which I sort of contest and say last year, Josh Jacobs and McKinney were two of the best free agent signings in the league. So I don't think, you don't always stand pat. That doesn't always happen. It might be more common than not. But last year, you just went and had a great offseason. So it's okay to be disappointed if you're a Packer fan. You still did make the moves for Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs. But my big takeaway, and you kind of mentioned it right here, is you saw the Vikings address the big problems on the line. You saw them address the cornerback position, which is also an issue in Green Bay with Jair Alexander leaving. I like Nate Hobbs, but I think Byron Murphy is a much more suitable cornerback for any team in the National Football League. The Bears made all the moves on the line of scrimmage immediately, to the point where we'll touch on it later. Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying they have infinite money, it seems like. The Bears come in and fix their problems with Ben Johnson. And Detroit, I think the best thing that you said there is, yeah, DJ Reed is the only real key noteworthy free agent that came in, but Aiden Hutchinson returns, Aleem McNeil returns, Alex Anzalone's going to be healthy. There's a lot of added guys coming back to Detroit that almost feel like free agents. And the Packers are sitting back watching every team in the NFC North improve or get guys back, and you're not. So I understand why any Packer fan is going to be frustrated with that, because now you're really relying on a lot of dudes to step up who didn't do it last year. They already didn't step up last season. And Jordan Love is going to have some added pressure on him without Christian Watson now to play at an elite level. Because when he's not at an elite level, Green Bay is a solid football team. But they need him to really step up here. That's sort of my take on Green Bay, is you're watching these teams get better, and you didn't do it for now. Maybe they go and trade for Trey Hendrickson or Cooper Kupp's a rumor. But where's Green Bay really stepping up? I don't see it.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't want to make it sound like Chicago and Minnesota have automatically solved all of their problems because they've made these free agency additions. Obviously, sometimes you make free agent additions and it just doesn't work out. The thing is one thing about the Packers, and you'll notice this in all the free agent signings they do, is they never want to guarantee money after the first year. The Packers are very conservative of how they sign these contracts, and that's different than how most other top free agents or how front offices operate free agency. Mm-hmm. Now, look, you can say this limits our downside. Someone like Nate Hobbs, even though he's going to make $24 million over the next 12 months, he's not guaranteed any money after the first year. You can cut him. Aaron Banks, we're seeing fans say the same thing. You can cut him after the first year. But neither of these deals really have the possibility of being home runs, because if players aren't getting more than that first year guaranteed, they're going to want big money throughout the whole length of the contract and pretty steady payments. Some of the better free agent signings we've seen this offseason, actually out of teams like Dallas and out of Philadelphia, are contracts where they're willing to guarantee more than the first year because it gives them big upside. So not only do I feel like the Packers aren't necessarily addressing everything, and you don't want to address every hole in free agency, I totally get it, but they're not signing the kinds of deals that give them big upside out of players either. On the other hand, they are happy to give Brandon McManus $7 million at the most inconsistent position in the entire NFL for a guy who's 35. I'm a little puzzled at what they did.
Yeah,
but kicker performance year over year doesn't hold. I wonder, you have so many, like we talked about, the Packers have clear holes on the roster. How you sit back and decide what we need to do is come up with one of the highest paid kickers in the NFL, and a guy who was cut last year and was a free agent, and sign a slot corner to big money, even if we're only guaranteeing the first year. Sign Aaron Banks, who, Notre Dame loved the guy. Don't get me wrong. but has been up and down. There's a reason why the 49ers didn't want him back despite really needing offensive line. I don't see this as an offseason where the Packers got much more talented. And I worry that next year, every other team in the division is going to be substantially more talented than the team you saw last year.
And I don't want any Packer fan to sit back here and think that they're a bad football team. Like, this is still a very good football team. I would say a very, what's the word I'm looking for? A very complete football team. Outside of a few spots here or there. Like, we're talking about wanting to add at receiver and edge rusher. They still have a solid group of players. We just wanted the star there. I actually think cornerback, once Jair Alexander's gone, I think that's actually the spot where I would say I'm a little more nervous. Because, you got to hope that Nate Hobbs or Keyshawn Nixon steps it up a level. But I don't want any Packer fan to think, this is still a very good football team. They were a playoff team this year for a reason. While Jordan Love was injured, there's a lot of optimism about the Packers going into next season. We're just looking specifically from a free agent standpoint and improving your team in free agency. When you saw, or with guys like returning, and the Packers aren't really having too many of those guys. Actually, they're losing it with Watson. Green Bay just doesn't really compare to the moves that the other teams made. And that's where I think you can be disappointed and say, man, I feel like we had a chance here to catch up to Philadelphia, to catch up to the Lions, to surpass the Vikings. And you could, like, the Packers, given Jordan Love versus McCarthy, you could think they're a better football team right now. I wouldn't argue with you. But it felt like a missed opportunity. And who knows, whether or not some people step up next year, like Lucas Van Ness, for instance, or Dontavian Wicks. But if I were a Packer fan, I'd be a little perturbed from the free agency. Any closing thought on Green Bay before? I feel like we have to hit the Bears real quick.
Yeah, it's as much as you want to talk about Green Bay not making moves, the Bears did the opposite and made basically every move possible. Again, you might question the wisdom of that. But here's the thing I'm thinking about the Bears is I've seen so many people say the Bears win absolutely every offseason every year, which first of all is just not true. There have been plenty of years where the Bears haven't made big additions or have made baffling ones. But I looked back at the history of the Bears, and if you look at how things have gone for them, they really like making these big pushes for talent in the second year of a quarterback. And how did that work? With Mitch Trubisky, it won them the division, right? They looked substantially better that year. Whether or not it held out long term, that's something you can wonder. But that was very good. With Justin Fields, they didn't really make it. And then the time before that, they made a run to the NFC Championship game, right? You remember that way back in, what was that, 2007?
The NFC Championship game with who at quarterback? With Cutler?
With Cutler. I'm trying to remember what year that was. That was before my time.
That was like 2010 or 2011.
Yeah, so a few years later. Yeah, it was a few years later. But this is something that's worked for them. And unlike previous years, these additions are additions that I think actually make sense for where the team's at. The fact is, if you wanted to get an offensive line in free agency and in trading, Joe Thuney, we've got a lot of people saying that he's a garbage player. He's not. He's a back-to-back first-team All-Pro.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Jonah Jackson, you might worry about a little bit more, but Drew Dahlman is very good. Grady Jarrett is reliable. They added a lot of players who are talented and should, at least for a couple of years, be able to contribute. So I know that people say it's always like this for the Bears. There's all this negativity surrounding them. I don't buy that at all. This seems like an offseason of the team making competent decisions to address, admittedly, some incompetent decisions in previous years, but better late than never, right?
Yeah, we can make fun of the Bears. And listen, if people want to line up and make fun of the Chicago Bears, I'll be right there in the crowd cheering along with everybody and laughing. Like I am, by all means, I'm for making fun of the Bears and teasing Bears fans. Our good buddy Weston Dell, I've taken my fair share of jabs, I'm sure you have as well, at Weston for being a Bears fan, and it's deserved. But we take them back as Vikings fans. There's plenty to make fun of for most NFC North fans here. It's a mockable group of fans, but at the same time, we do need to acknowledge when they're making the right moves. And last season, they did have a great offseason. And this season, by all means, it looks like they're going to have another great offseason. So I'm with you here. The holes that they plugged, they needed help on the defensive line. They brought in Odangbo. They added Jarrett. They fixed the O-line. That's what I was screaming about the other day for the Vikings is Ben Johnson came in and identified a very clear weakness and immediately fixed it. And not only fixed it, but Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman, like you said, are very good players. Not just good, very good. And that'll make life easier for everyone across that offensive line. So, again, I'm all for making fun of them, but we do have to acknowledge that it was some smart moves here. Now, does that translate to success, and will the curse of the Bears and that sort of thing prevail? Yeah, it probably, and that'll be really funny when it does happen. But as it stands right now, if you're a Bears fan, there's every reason in the world to be sitting back here and saying, we could go to the playoffs next year if Caleb improves. And with Ben Johnson at coach, with his schemes, I'm not going to be the one to sit back and instantly automatically doubt Chicago. So I'm with you there. I feel like real quick, we should hit the Lions for a second. But I guess a better way to say to address the Lions and their situation is, and I guess this would be not hitting the Lions at all, but when you look at the NFC North now, the Lions are the defending champions at 15-2. Geez, even sitting back last year when we went through the predictions, we all thought Detroit was going to have a great season, but 15-2 is just crazy record. Who do you think is the biggest threat to Detroit now? As they stand, yeah, I love how I'm like, let's talk Lions. And then I bring up literally all three other teams instead. But who do you think is the biggest threat? Are you going to go with the improved teams, rosters, with young quarterbacks leading the way, or the Packers who kind of stayed the course, but I think most people would argue have the best quarterback of the group or the most established at this point in time?
So I do want to say something about the Lions. Shout out to the Derek Barnes and Marcus Davenport deals. I love that the Lions are not overreacting to what other teams are doing and are signing their guys to reasonable contracts. The linebacker market this offseason was outrageous. So was the defensive edge market. So shout out to them. Who's in the best position to catch up to them? I think that one of the Bears or the Vikings is going to be a really good team next year. I think that's true. I think either Caleb Williams is going to figure it out and the Bears defense is going to improve because they address the defensive line quite a bit and have a decent secondary, or the Vikings are going to have a decent quarterback for the year, whether that's Aaron Rodgers or JJ McCarthy, and they'll be able to work that out. So I think actually the least threatening team, even though I think they'll be the most consistent next year, is the Packers. Because even though Jordan Love has gone on heaters before, it's just not clear to me if the Packers have the same upside that the Bears or the Vikings do.
Oh man, you're gonna piss off some people.
Here's the thing: I feel like any of these teams, it all comes down to quarterback play. Every single one of these teams has a roster that is good. I think after the Bears additions, every single one is a roster that is good enough where if the quarterback plays the lights out, they can beat the Lions and win the division. Well, I don't think they will. I think this is still the Lions division.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate on behalf of Packers fans here, which feels wrong in so many ways. But if I were a Packer fan, I'd sit back and I'd be like, Ziggy, don't you think we have the best quarterback then out of the Vikings, Bears, and Green Bay?
Do they?
Well, I mean, what do you think? I'm asking you. Like, don't you think Jordan Love is the best quarterback out of McCarthy, Caleb, and Love? If QB is the most important position, if it all comes down to it, wouldn't you say that we're then in the best position to be the threat to Detroit? Again, just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I see. What I've seen is Jordan Love has played 4 half seasons of football. 3 of them have not been good enough to beat the Lions, and 1 of them has.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying now. Yeah.
So it's like, now look, there were injuries last year. That is true. But if you're looking for Jordan Love to get elevated, the Packers didn't make additions this offseason that will elevate him. He needs to elevate himself. That's just how it is. So if you look at things, I think Jordan Love is probably the most talented quarterback in the division. He certainly played the best stretch of football out of any of those guys. But I think I have no idea what to think about JJ McCarthy. He's a mystery box, which means he's probably no good.
I know.
But we'll have a functional offense around him. Caleb Williams genuinely impressed me last year. And the Bears made enough additions, both in the coaching staff and on the offense, that I think that Caleb Williams will have players around him helping him get better, helping to elevate him. I think the Bears, this feels crazy to say given all the history, and I know what the comments are going to say. I bought into the hype. The Bears are going to disappoint again. Maybe so. I think if any team is going to threaten Detroit this year, it's the Bears. Not because I think they're necessarily the best team in the division, but I think they're the only team that has a chance to be good enough to dominate Detroit. Like, the Lions won 15 games last year and didn't get worse. 11 games was good enough to get third in the division, and it wasn't particularly close. Like, you're going to need to be a team that can win 13, 14, 15 games if you want to beat the Lions. And I just don't see that coming out of Minnesota or Green Bay.
You can see 13, 14 wins coming out of Chicago?
I see the technology.
What does that mean?
I see the line. Here's the line. Ben Johnson brings a great offense. Caleb Williams continues to improve. The defense regresses to the mean. I think the Bears could have a top 5 offense next year. I don't know why this sounds crazy.
Wait, what do you mean the defense regresses to the mean?
The defense was great 2 years ago and mediocre last year. Go back to being good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
guess progresses.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. All right. So I vehemently disagree that Chicago will be I think the Bears have a better chance of catching Detroit if Detroit regresses to the mean and Chicago improves a bit. But we're talking, if you're expecting Detroit to be a 13 or 14 win team again, I just cannot see Chicago in year one making that sort of a leap. I guess, things happen the Vikings did it with O'Connell in year one, a 13 win team, but a lot went right for them in that situation. I don't think you're insane for the thought of, hey, Chicago has the roster to challenge Detroit the most if things work out. I just disagree with you on them being able to get that good. I guess I disagree on you in that I really can't see it happening.
I mean, here's what you should actually take my comments mean. What my comment really means is I don't think any of these teams are catching Detroit next.
Fair enough.
But I think if I can squint and see any team doing it, it's Chicago dramatically improving, which I think is very unlikely, to be clear. I just think this Detroit team's that good.
It is really tough. I do think that all 4 of these teams are really good football teams. And the Bears getting Ben Johnson, I think you'll see pretty quickly how much structure and how much change he's going to bring. If it's a disaster again, I think you'll know by mid-season, all right, I don't know if this is going to work out the way we envisioned. But if he comes in there and Caleb's, tossing for 3-4 touchdowns and has a couple plays where you're just oh, there it is. That's what we saw in Detroit. Then you start getting excited if you're a Bears fan. It's a really tough question. Who's the biggest threat? I would probably say right now, I'm gonna put myself in the Lions fan shoes. I'm monitoring Chicago. I'm a little worried that Minnesota. Here's what I'd say about the Vikings. With JJ McCarthy, I'm not totally concerned because it's just, like you said, it's just such a wild card. I am scared of the roster, and I'm a little uneasy with the new defensive line. But I think it has to remain the Packers if I'm really trying to be honest about it. And it is because they've owned the Vikings, Detroit. They've owned Chicago. And yeah, that only time that they had some question marks was when Jordan Love got hot. And I think there's a better chance that Jordan Love gets hot again than that JJ or Caleb in year one takes an extraordinary leap. Or a pretty large leap, I'd say. JJ wouldn't even be a leap. It would just be him being awesome. So I'd lean towards betting on the Packers if I had to. But if I'm a Lions fan, I'm feeling really good that they didn't make any moves, because if they went and got a Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, and I know that those were guys that you're saying you couldn't get, but someone along those lines, if they got a beast, then I'd go all right, we got our work cut out. Now it feels like I feel pretty good if I'm a Lions fan.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I'm looking at the divisional odds right now on an unnamed sports book. To give you an idea, the NFC North is a unique division. In every division other than the NFC West and the NFC North, the last place team by odds is basically totally outfits. Nobody expects them to be any good. Indeed, the Bears actually have better odds to win the NFC North than every other third place team in a division. And the Bears are tied for last with the Vikings at plus 400. So Vegas is expecting this to be basically the only division where any team can win, because I think there's so much uncertainty around every team other than the Lions. And uncertainty should be dangerous if you're the team, if you're the top dog. I mean, if you're the Baltimore Ravens trying to defend the AFC North, you're thrilled by the fact that it's certain the Browns are going to stink. If you're the Eagles, you're thrilled by the fact that it's certain the Giants are going to stink. The NFC North, any of these teams, I think, could just turn it on for a few games and win a stretch of divisional games. And sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, like I'm thinking if I were a Bucs fan, I'm looking at the rest of that division going, all right, New Orleans, nah. Carolina, yeah. Atlanta, those teams, I think there's a degree of uncertainty with any team. But if you're a Bucs fan, you're looking at the division right now saying, I feel like we should definitely be the favorite.
The only thing you're afraid of is Michael Penix Jr., right? Being good.
Yeah, that's legitimately it. Or I guess,
and that's uncertainty.
I guess maybe Bryce Young.
No.
Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr would probably. I think the Saints figuring it out might be my. I don't know. There's really not much. It's really not much going for the NFC South other than Tampa. Okay, so you're going with the Bears, and I'm going with the Packers. That's really disappointing from two Vikings fans that neither of us have the gumption to pick our team there. Maybe we're just being smart and keeping expectations.
I don't want to believe.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm so pumped up.
Like, I want to see JJ McCarthy. Once he gives me a reason to believe, I'm all in. But I need to see something.
I'm beyond pumped up given the roster moves. And I'm also beyond terrified that JJ is just going to be terrible. I hope he's good.
That would be the Vikings thing, right? Is we have a great offensive line with a great defensive line. The 2018 Bears like to even worse back, and we'll just sit back and watch everything collapse around him.
No, the Vikings thing here, and I do believe that we've done this now multiple times. We have a great team here. And there's questions about the quarterback. So you're saying, all right, this sounds familiar, right? Great Vikings team, older quarterback, maybe even an older quarterback who used to be a legend for the Green Bay Packers and went to the Jets for a year. Oh, yeah, that sounds like Brett Favre, doesn't it? Yeah, Brett Favre. And now it also sounds like Aaron Rodgers. And there's a lot of speculation over the past few days that Aaron Rodgers was going to sign with the Steelers. On Tuesday, though, when all the reports are coming out that Rodgers could sign later today, the momentum sort of stalled. And you're looking around the internet and it's like, all right, well, what's going on here? Is it the financial reasons? Maybe a little bit of that. Is it the length of the contract? Does Rodgers want a 2-year deal? Maybe it's that. I think there's a little bit more to it. And when I really believed there was more to it was when Mike Silver tweeted out, in the Vikings organization, Kevin O'Connell's opinion carries the most weight when it comes to the QB decisions. There are some very interesting conversations taking place right now. So I saw that. And then I saw Daniel Jones also going to the Colts. And I went, all right, a second. This sounds like Kevin O'Connell thinks he could get 1 year out of Rodgers. Rodgers thinks and realizes that Minnesota is his best option to win now. And there's some convincing of the Wilfs and maybe Kwesi as well to have Aaron Rodgers come into Minnesota for a 1 year, potentially magical season. I actually texted Mike Silver about it. I worked on a show with Mike. I was like, Mike, is this? I actually didn't ask him about it because I thought that would be unprofessional. But I tried to hint at it by saying like, hey, Mike, am I crazy for thinking Rodgers would work? And, Mike's super professional. He did not even come close to taking the bait and was like, well, he's like, yeah, they're thinking about it. And I was like, all right. So,
well, Dan Rossini also said, she reported, I got this notification during the show, that the Vikings are explicitly considering signing Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, did that just come out right now?
So here's the thing,
that just happened.
Oh, dear. Are we back?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that Diana Rossini, she just tweeted that.
Oh, yeah, she tweeted that. And here's the thing about Aaron Rodgers, I think, is I'm sort of thinking about Aaron Rodgers, I am extremely confident that he's already made up his mind between Pittsburgh and New York. I don't think he's waiting this long. Like, he's known that those are the teams that are going to be interested in him for months, right? So it doesn't make sense to me that Aaron Rodgers is sitting back thinking, oh, I don't know. Do I want to go stay in New York? Do I want to go to Pittsburgh? I don't know what he's going to decide between those two teams, but he's holding them hostage right now. I think eventually one of them might get fed up. But like, that's not the question.
I think you're totally wrong on this one.
I think that Aaron Rodgers is waiting because he wants to see if the Minnesota Vikings are going to make him an offer, because he'd much rather take that than go to either Pittsburgh or New York. Well, so I think he already knows which of those two he wants. No, I'm agreeing with you. I think he already knows which of those two he wants. I don't think he's holding up because he's worried about that, like it's being pitched. Okay. He's holding up because he wants to see, do I get a chance to go to Minnesota? That's the only explanation I can come up with for why he hasn't signed with a team yet and why he's holding them hostage.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. And some people have said, he doesn't want to follow Brett Favre's footsteps. Who knows? Like, Brett Favre came on the Will Kane show today and was like, by all means, sign with the Vikings. Like, they're a really good.
I'll tell you what Aaron Rodgers wants. Aaron Rodgers wants a second Super Bowl.
Yeah. And the best chance is easily, like, if he goes to Pittsburgh or New York, I think it ends poorly, quite poorly.
New York, he's lucky to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh, he's lucky to make the playoffs and not have to go on the road to Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore.
Yeah,
round one.
I'm very confident saying if he goes to Pittsburgh or New York, it is not a pretty season for Aaron Rodgers. And maybe they pull off that Pittsburgh magic and somehow get to like 9-8, but they probably will if that's what Tomlin does. But you're right. They're going on the road and they're getting blown out in Buffalo in the wild card weekend. Like, that will happen. Aaron Rodgers, like, to the Vikings, I think, like, look, right now, Aaron has the Brett Favre decision. I mean, this is really it. It's unbelievable, the parallels in this situation for both teams from the 2009 Vikings to the 2025. Really strong offensive lines, great skill position players, headlined by the most unstoppable of superstars in the league in Adrian Peterson in 2009 and Justin now in 2025. Two pretty complete defenses headlined as well by dominant defensive lines. With Jonathan Grenard, Van Ginkel, the Vikings had Jared Allen and the Williams Wall in 2009. Like, the biggest question mark here now from 2009 and 25 was, can there be a quarterback to bring it all together? And Brett Favre did. Now, if Aaron Rodgers is willing to swallow some pride and avoid creating any drama, I think he has an unbelievable opportunity to chase that second Super Bowl and achieve it with Kevin O'Connell. Like, it's on the table. It really is.
And beat Green Bay twice.
And beat Green Bay twice. It's just a matter of, would Aaron be willing to put aside some of his pride and go out there and play with the team? And
I don't think that's the question.
What do you think it is?
I think the question is Minnesota willing to risk tanking JJ McCarthy's development for 1 year? Like, Aaron Rodgers, I think he will, at least on paper, agree to every single term the Vikings presented. Because as you said, right, like, going to New York, going to Pittsburgh, everybody's very excited about Rodgers to Pittsburgh. They'll have maybe the 12th best Super Bowl odds if he signs there. It's not going to make a difference. New York, even worse. But the thing is, if you sign Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota, if JJ McCarthy, if he's going in as a starter, that's automatically giving up a year on JJ McCarthy. He's not going to be happy about that. If you go in with it's going to be an open competition, you have to trust that Aaron Rodgers is all right being a backup for the first time since he was to Brett Favre. Frankly, good luck. The second JJ McCarthy shows a single sign of struggling, Rodgers is going to be out there complaining to the media. He'll be going on Pat McAfee. Every journalist will be saying, get Aaron Rodgers in there. If JJ McCarthy is one bad game, it'll happen. That's just inevitable. Like, it will create bad vibes. There's no way around it.
Wait. I'm sorry. I was looking at odds for a second at the very beginning of that. If Aaron would not be the backup in any situation, there's literally no.
I said there's only two options. Either he's going in as a surefire starter, in which case you're just punting on JJ McCarthy for a year, in which case he's upset, or you trying to make it an open competition, in which case no one wins.
No. If Aaron comes to the Vikings, I mean, this I would be willing to bet a substantial amount of money. If he goes to the Vikings, he is the unquestioned starter going into next season. Now, the only maybe if JJ McCarthy just looked unbelievable.
The Vikings would bench Aaron Rodgers in a second if JJ McCarthy gave him a better chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying, like, if JJ was just head and shoulders better. I'd still probably think Aaron would start week 1 if he comes to Minnesota. But yeah, if he signs there, he's playing. Like Aaron is not going to Minnesota to be in a competition. He'll go to the Giants or the Steelers before that. But yeah, dude, I'd be excited. I'm looking right here. The Vikings are 15th in Super Bowl odds at plus 4,100. They're actually right behind the Bears at plus 3,700. They're behind the Bucks. Like, let's see, who do they jump, Ziggy? Ready? This could be fun right here. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Vikings, how many of these teams do they jump? The Bears.
Yes.
The Bucks.
No.
Okay. Does it end there for you? The Texans?
It ends there. It's no.
See, I think if Aaron Rodgers, maybe in my mind. Well, what about in your mind? Let's forget the sports book. Where do they jump this team?
In my mind, like in my.
Okay, so the Bears, yes. The Bucks,
yes.
Texans,
yes.
Chargers,
yes.
Packers,
Screw it. Yeah.
Rams,
probably. Yeah.
Bengals.
No.
Okay, and then well here I'll just say the other ones. The Commanders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd say yes. 49ers.
No.
Okay, and then I'm assuming you have the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills.
Yeah, no way we're jumping any of those guys, but they'd be close to top 5 in my odds ish.
I would probably put them again. Let's say the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, Lions. I'll stand ahead of them. I would probably. I think I'd put them 6th. The Bengals' defense is horrendous. I think I'd have the Vikings as the 6th most likely team to win the Super Bowl. And people are going to say that's insane. I acknowledge.
Oh, well, let's be clear. It is a little insane, right?
Yeah,
this is why I think in the actual odds, they don't even jump the Bucks. But look, if you're going to be a Vikings fan, none of us are picking this team to jump the line, like to jump the Bears or the Packers and chasing the Lions. You got to give us something.
Yeah, like with Aaron Rodgers, I think he'd have a fantastic season. I really do. I can't like he's good enough still. I know that the Jets was kind of a disaster, but that's who the Jets are, guys. The Jets always do this sort of thing. And the Vikings are like, I mean, one of their calling cards of the past 30 years has been older veteran quarterbacks coming in and having strong seasons. They've been doing it forever. Warren Moon came in, Randall Cunningham came in, Brett Favre came in. I mean, they do this. Like, this is what they do. And usually it ends poorly with something catastrophic happening. But this is who we are. And I expect it to be an awesome year if Aaron Rodgers is there. I think that everything is in place. Like, we don't have the roster and the coaching staff that I think would lead to a collapse. It would really take Aaron just being horrible. And I don't think he's horrible.
I know how the Vikings break the curse once. We have to sign Aaron Rodgers. I know how we break the curse.
How? What?
Brutal. So hear me out, Paul. Hear me out. This is it. We sign Aaron Rodgers. What's the most Vikings thing ever? Aaron Rodgers plays lights out. We're like on the path to the 1 seed, and then like week 17 or 18, Aaron Rodgers like re-ruptures his Achilles and is out for the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's usually how it goes for us, but let's just say sure.
JJ McCarthy's the Nick Foles of the Minnesota Vikings. We transition to JJ McCarthy and Super Bowl's reign.
We transition
like a Minnesota blizzard. Super Bowl's falling from the sky.
That's an optimistic.
Aaron Rodgers gets his ring. That's it. Okay, let's sign Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
I'm the script writer.
We're more of the team. I feel like we're more of the team that has the collapse as opposed to the, why I'm not even throwing out the jinxes out there. I'm just going to leave it alone. Okay. So yeah, we should go after Aaron Rodgers. I would be excited. I would be very excited. I know a lot of Vikings fans would be pissed off, but I think Kevin O'Connell wants it. I really do. And I think they're going to.
Whether or not it's the best, whether or not it's the best thing for the Vikings long term, I don't know, but I want it to. I think it's hard to. I get the rational part, long-term worries, Aaron Rodgers culture, whatever. I don't think you're a fan if the thought of Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings doesn't excite you at least a little bit.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I mean, just the storyline is phenomenal. Like that's Rodgers following the Favre's footsteps. Can you imagine that game? We would have to go when the Vikings go back to Lambeau Field.
I mean, you predicted this years ago. This is what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember years ago I sat back and I was talking to our friend Evan Cook and I was like, this all checks out here. Like Kirk will be gone.
We'd have to get a box.
It'll be a disaster. Yeah, it'll be a disaster in with the Jets. And then I was just looking at the team and I was like, this team will be ready to go in 2 years. And the Vikings, strip the teams of quarterbacks. The Vikings are I think the Vikings and the Lions are a toss-up for the most ready-to-win now team between those two. Outside of quarterback. So it'll be fun. It will be fun. All right, we'll wrap it up there. A good NFC North show here. It's fun. I love talking about these teams, so it's fun to focus in on them. We'll be back next week, and maybe we'll see. I mean, when Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere, depending on where, maybe we'll have an emergency instant reaction podcast.
No, we'll have to react wherever he goes. Yeah. It's Aaron Rodgers.
So it's either going to be the Giants, the Steelers, or the Vikings. The local team in the Giants, Jack's team in the Steelers, or our team in the Vikings. So we'll be back, I'm sure, with that coming up soon. I'd imagine that by the next time we record, we have an idea. But you never know with these things. They can be weird. So we'll see you next time.